Super freaky girl. Okay. This one's really fun to make, honestly. This is for my girlfriend's birthday gift. And my whole thing with this was that I just wanted to make it as fun and more of like a music video type of character profile. So with that, I I wanted to make it as close and personal as I can with Yumiko, since the song I used was by Nicki Minaj, Super Freaky Girl, and that song was really, I guess I could say, intimate in a sense, and it was just so ranchy and in your face about like throwing like the whole like lyrics and everything. So I used Kakagiri, which and I was thinking it was like a really perfect fit since she's pretty freaky, I guess I should say. And it's just like have like if you watched it, you'll know like the facial expressions and everything is just so like out of this world. It really sort of kind of fits well with what Nicki Minaj is really saying, somewhat, somewhat. So I had to really try to make it. I really try to make it like more of like an exposure in a sense, since the song is really ranchy and I can't really go about certain scenes of what Nikki is talking about. Since then again, this is not really a, I guess like a etchy type of show. Well, it isn't. It isn't, and it isn't. So I really had to work with my scenes and really try to make it seem that she is really going about what Nicki Minaj is talking about. So scene selection was really important in this, and also like the lip movement and all that. So I just want to make it more of like a music video character profile. So it was much easier to do it that way instead of just doing a random AMV for it. So my whole thing was okay, I have to make it seem that she is really going about doing these type of things and just trying to really match the lyrics with the songs as much as I can in the scenes. So for example, like in the beginning where she was like, "Oh yeah, I can lick it, do all that stuff." Oh, I'll just like, find a scene where she's licking and stuff like that. And if I can't find like certain scenes where she's talking about, like the best I can do is just look for action scenes that match what she's saying. Because on this part, she's like, "I can grip it," and you see her gripping her face. It was like little stuff like that where it doesn't fully have to match what she's talking about, but there's little certain like snippets of things that really come across, and also like the lip movement and everything. So it was really, if anything, it was just really fun, just trying to like mix and match certain scenes and try to really just match what she's talking about. So that was pretty much the raw part of it. I guess we'll go into the effects. So also if you notice, like I sort of kind of picked out what I want to do for like the typography. So you see like black spaces here for the raw versions. Those parts are gonna be used for like typography. So I think, like I said before, I wanted to make it like a music video, do the whole black bars. And this right here, how the text came in, like that. Let's go into After Effects. And if you've seen my other making of videos, you know how my timeline and work comp is. So be prepared. Okay, here we go. Let me just remove the black bars for a second. I'll get to that in a bit, just in case if you're new and you don't know how to do that yet. So with that, it really is quite simple. So you see I have the text layer right here, and the font, if you are curious, is Pinky Caramel. You can get it at thefont.com. So I wrote that out, and what you want to do is highlight your text, go to layer, and then you want to hit auto trace, and then you just keep everything the same, just hit OK, and when you hit OK, it will, I'll close this out, it will show your like all these masks on the letters. So in order to see masks, you gotta hit M. Make sure this layer is highlighted, so you hit M, then we'll bring up all like the mask paths and everything, just so you can get an idea of what you're doing. So what I did, I added in 3D stroke. So with that, I ended up keyframing 3D stroke with the start right here. Click stopwatch, went from 100 all the way to 0, and it'll just automatically do that. And what you want to do is we want to highlight, well, click use all paths. I think is unchecked when you first bring it in. So in order to do that, because if you don't, it'll only be like one will go through it. So you just click use paths, and it'll do that for every single mask you have. That's pretty much how I did it with both of them, and I just changed the color for the next one. So it's not the same thing. I just changed the color to pink. And right here is just some excuse me. Right here is just regular. Where is it? It's quite easy doing it this way because I believe I didn't do it in a 3D space. All I did was just let me hit U if you want to see all your keyframes and everything that you did. FYI. So all I did was just keyframe the scale, rotation, and opacity as it fades in, and just rotate it as it goes. And I wanted to keep the motion still, because at first it was gonna stop like around here. And so one of my thing is that I try to have it more like alive, so to speak. So I just move the scale all the way over so it can keep on moving as the scene ends. And I just added glow to get that little hue around. Oh, it's like doing match your eyes. I thought that was pretty cool. That's a whole little title intro. Let's see what's next. Studio intro. Make sure you subscribe. Black Diamond Team. Right here, how those circle bursts that I did. Those right there. So right here. Let me see. This is quite simple. I haven't done the circle burst in years, so I was surprised I was able to do it again. But it really is pretty simple though. Right here. Okay. So how I did the circle burst, it was I had to go into shape layers and just let me just do it real quick for you guys to show you. So go right up here, see rectangle tool, you hold it and you want to go to your ellipse tool. So you want to click down on your mouse, hold Control and Shift at the same time, and then you want to go up. And that'll make a perfect circle. Because if you don't hold Control and Shift and you just do like that, it'll be like, it won't be as perfect, and you really gotta like match it up. So Control Z to undo that. And so, all right, so you have your perfect circle, and look up here, you'll see fill, and what you want to do is click on the word fill, not on the color. Then you'll see right here, none. and it'll take that away. So you have your circle. And what you want to do is go to drop down arrow, go to transform. Where do you go to? Okay, no. One second. Oh, you can tell I know what I'm doing. Okay, I'm close. Hang on. Okay. I got it. So I thought I did something else for a different shape layers. Always mess me up. So what you want to do is click on this the anchor point tool. Anchor point and making sure it's on the center. I'll go back to this too. It'll be much easier, especially with like typo and stuff. So you want to hit S for scale. Bring it over here and just hit 0 on numbers. Bring it up and it'll automatically do a burst, just like that. You can also add like motion blur. Click this for motion blur and add glow. And also just do some easy ease. Highlight your keyframes, keyframe assistant, easy ease. It'll make it more like smooth out. You can also go to like the graph editor, make sure your keyframes are highlighted. Click here. You can also play around with the keyframes and expressions. I don't really mess around with this because I don't really know too much about it like that. But you know, just a thought. So that's pretty much how I did that. Next one. And also here we go with some typography. And the way I do typography is pretty simple. I don't really like using like pre-installed or just like the ones that pretty much like do everything for you. I'd rather like just do myself just to really get around to what I'm trying to make and be more like not like authentic, but just so I can really place the letters and animations of how I really want it instead of just somebody just like doing it for me. So what I did was just hit U for keyframes, and all I did was just like mess around with the position and the scale. And one thing about typography, you can just do it however you want. That's how you want the characters to move. Just make sure click on motion blur. It's pretty much all I do for my typography, but only for 2D. We'll get to 3D in a second. So let's just say I wanted to add some text. I'll just put hi. So we'll have that. Hit S for scale, bring it up, and make sure you go to your anchor point, move anchor point. I just always do it in the middle sometimes, depending on what animation I want to do. So let's just say I want to have it like come out like in a twist. So I wanted to rotate, so I hit R for rotation, and I wanted to shoot out, so I hit S for scale. So and click the stopwatch for both of them, hit U again to bring up both keyframes. And since it's already like that, I can always just bring over the keyframes over here, and I can go to about like 180, 190, and then I can hit 0 for scale. Maybe just like that. It just brings up just like that. And I sometimes just add some more like life into it, like a bounce. And so with that, my little secret to that is that I always go about 4 4 to 5 frames for that type of stuff. So let's just say it stops right here. And so let me just remove this so you can see it better. So let's say it stops right here, right? And that's it. It's pretty stiff. So I can go over like 4 or 5 frames, and then I can decrease the scale a little bit, and then go more 5 frames, and then increase it a little bit more than it was before, but not too much, and then just go back to how it was and bring it back. And to make it more smooth, just highlight keyframes, easy ease. And so it will be like a little bounce. And so what I just did there to bring my my work area timeline, you want to hit B and N anywhere to just bring it up, instead of when you play it, you just have to play the whole thing, only certain areas, instead of doing a whole manual dragging and stuff just like that. So don't forget, this is B and N. B beginning, N for N, stuff like that. Nice little shortcut. So go over, and it will be like a little bounce. Just like that. So that's pretty much how I'll be doing my typography sometimes. And let's go for this part. Back in. Bring this up. This is connected, right? Oh, okay. So hit U, and all I did was do the X rotate. And remember what I said before about the anchor points? Instead of like the middle, I put it onto the corner right here. Just so it can be different, and so it can rotate that way. Because if I put the anchor point, let's say on, let me just duplicate this real quick. Take this off. And if I move the anchor point this way, it would rotate. See how it's rotating differently? So some of the things you gotta pay attention to. So sometimes the anchor point is pretty important on where you want to place it and how things to rotate or move. So with that, that's how I wanted the characters to move, so I put the anchor point on the corner. So that's how I made it to rotate like that. Then next thing, here's some more typography. It's just the same thing as last time with the 2D. I just, instead of doing it in 3D space, I just do it regularly with like scale and the regular position keyframes. No, actually, I lied. No, I did do it in 3D, it seems. Well, you can also do it in 2D too, but just have it fly in. And to make things easier, because sometimes, say, I'm gonna add in another camera. So you want to do some typography, add in camera, and let's say you want to do some position. And so one thing, I didn't really find that out, but like I don't really try to do as much as I should. So you want to click on position, right click, and you want to do separate dimensions, it will save you like a headache, because you can really just like do it your own thing instead of just having it as a plain old regular position. Use these values, so it'll make typography and like all the other stuff like much easier. So I did just have it fly in using the Z position, and have it do a little wiggle. The wiggle was part of the regular Z rotation. And like I said before about the whole give it more life with the pump I did with the high, I did the same thing with the rotation to have it go back and forth, like 4 to 5 frames each one going back and forth, just to give it some more life. And to get this color right here, this one of my little things I do for my text that I like, is that I like to add glow and gradient ramp, because sometimes when you're doing text and you mix it in with some 3D and it moves, you'll see the lights be going down or up and around depending on where you move the camera. So that's one of the things that I like, one of the little style that I do. And just keyframed it out, make sure motion blur, always do that. And some zooms. So my zooms are all right. I just do scale and go 5 frames in. And with this, I make sure you do motion tile, mirror edges, and do like 230 for like each one, 240 around, just to get, because if you take this off, you see the borders. So put that on, and now you just want to zoom in like 5 frames, and that's it. So that's pretty much the zooms that I do. Highlight, easy ease. So with that, oh, rotation. I also did a tutorial on like spin zooms and everything. It's just the same concept that I do, but I'll explain it here. So you want to do right click, go new. You want to go to null object. So be right here. And also, like I said before, anchor point is important. So it will be on a corner. So you want to click on anchor point and make sure your null anchor point is right in the middle. Or you can also hit A and do 50-50 on each one. It'll put it right there. So how I do my spin transition is that I click on rotation, keyframe from 0 all the way to 1. So I just place a 1 right here. And if you want to move between keyframes easily without clicking on them and make them more precise, it's J and K. J to go forward, K to go, well, J to go back and K to go forward, excuse me. So that'll make it much easier. And so with that, I have it. And what you want to do is click, well, first off, make sure, I'll bring this up. So these are your 2 scenes, and you already have it keyframed from 0 all the way to 1, so it'll be a full spin. What you want to do is click on the first keyframe, and then go to your first layer that you want to transition, and then you want to click right here, the parent, and you want to pick whip all the way to the first null, and that it will attach itself to this first keyframe that you have, and then you want to go all the way over, like I said, hit K, and then you want to highlight this one too, and then do the same thing for your next scene, parent, pick whip to the null. And so with that, it will automatically do a whole spin. And also before, make sure you do motion tile. Then again, without it, you still see like the bars and everything. So, excuse me. So make sure you do that. And there you go. You'll have a spin. Make sure motion blur is on and you'll be all right. Here's some more typography. Go over here. So what I did with that is that I made sure this last scene was in 3D space. And one of the things that I like to do is that, say you run out of space, or if you move it forward, it will change the scene. So once I stopped it, I went to the very last frame, I duplicated it, and I made it to a freeze frame. Time map. So what you want to do, so you duplicate it, so you want to right click, go to time, and do click freeze frame, which will make pretty much like a screenshot. And so that's how I made the scene last longer. And so I made it a 3D space. Then I got my camera, hit U to show you keyframes. And I just did position. I didn't separate dimensions that time because I wasn't really trying to, there was no need for me to do that. So all I did was focus on zoom out. And some of the newer versions of After Effects, they have more options for that. So I just click this, the dial to go back and forth. So when I click that, much easier to go like back and forth in 3D space with that. And so I did that, and I also had my text in 3D space, and so I moved the text out as well. Hit U, position. I moved that closer up, and then had the text, the camera pan out, and just did some keyframes for my text, position, scale, and all that. And also, with the glow and the gradient. And then more scene matching. Right here is more, you see, the same thing what I did with the high, I gave it that bounce, you see, the R. And I just show it to you on here. Give it that bounce, and I put the R. All I did was scale it down and just made it the same color as the F, and just keyframed it up, make sure like it's coming out. Then I just moved the camera over, and I just had the E's just keep going. The fade transition into the next scene. So yeah, one of the things about AMVs is pretty much just like the scenes, because you want to look for, because I really didn't match the scenes. If you want, I'll send a link and everything so you can watch it. Especially with lip syncs, I'll go more in depth with those later. But the lip syncs are pretty easy if you know like what you're looking for. So I guess like for example, say if the character or the song is talking or like singing, and then what I do, I wait until the very last word, and then I'll stop it, and then look for like a scene in a show where a character's like talking or speaking or something. And the way anime is set up, like all they're doing is just moving their mouth up and down, up and down. So they're gonna pretty much say like whatever you want. Only thing that really is troubling is you really gotta make sure it matches. Because if it don't matches, you pretty much always tell. Because like what also works is like if you say it, you say it with a character, and you sort of kind of tell like the lips and everything, and the mouth is moving. It'll be like, okay, that's not how you actually say it, because like the mouth doesn't like make a O sound, and they're like having a face like this instead of their, you know, making an O. It's like stuff like that. I'll go more in depth with that. Just to now, I can't really I can't really say the audio because it was blocked, and only like two countries, so I ain't trying to have it blocked on here. But anyway, let's pass. In here, I just had some fun with some more typography, some mass transitions, and also to give the text more life. What I do is I separate them sometimes, and I just bring them both together just to do my own like animation. It's the same thing I did with the high and the F, just to go 5 frames forward, 5 frames back, just to give it, some animation. use the camera, zoom in, then pan out with the other K. And I just did some opacity, keyframe that, scale, move out the way. In here, man, I was jumbled. For a transition like this, all I did was, it was a single layer, so I duplicated and hit M to bring up your mask, and I masked both of them out at the same time, but different sides. And I just did, some keyframes on position, just to have it, some life. Okay. Oh, now this right here, this is new. Which is pretty simple actually. So it's the same thing as I did in the beginning, but instead of, I didn't really do like the whole that drawing effect I did. So all I did was have a text layer, F, and when I did the same thing, I auto trace it, right, I highlight it, went to layer, auto trace, and it made the F, but all cut out. So I duplicated that and I keyframed all of them to go out into their separate ways. And I did a bounce for the F and the R, and I just changed the color of the stroke. It's like black and white. So that's how I did that. Here's some regular Twitch, more lip syncs, and here I tried to go for that. I did a little, I did a little candy style. I tried to. I'm not too crazy with it. But where is it? Because all it is like I master out, and let me just like try to add some color or something if I can. So with that, here's a mask, rotor brush, and I changed the hue to blue, and to get this the way it looks. Let me see where I did some. I'm trying to see where was the effect at. Oh, right here, checkerboard. So I typed in checkerboard to get those little boxes, and with that, you gotta hit to toggle switches and modes and change it to Luma. But make sure your scene is up front, because say I'm do no track mat. This will be the checkerboard, right? And make sure your scene is up top, because this is the mask, and like in the hue I changed the color, and so this is a checkerboard down below, right? So what you want to do is go to the checkerboard layer where it says none, and just click on Luma, which will pretty much bring the checkerboard like into your mask. And so that's how the effect was like that. And some text, more scenes, and it is scenes matching the song. Some rotation and everything. Zooms, scenes, and just so also this is like this part right here, like where I also talk about how the anchor point is important, where it really depends on what you want to do and how you want the text to really do its own thing. Let me see where is up or down. Okay. So like I said, I did the anchor point below, like on the corner. See, I was on the corner right here. And then hit U to show you keyframe. And I just did Z rotation just to bring it back in place. I did that for each one, but I made sure to zoom, make sure all of them are 3D space. What I did was like position them forward on each one and just have the camera pan out. And I just did a eye transition. And for that, I masked out the eye on the first layer. I duplicated, I masked out the eye on the first one. And I put the other layer at the bottom. And I just did opacity just to fill it in and bring back the eye. And I just did place the R there. I just did that in 3D space. Make sure it was like a 3D layer. Like no need for a camera and everything. All you really do is just hit this box right here to make it 3D, and you want to mess around with the rotation. You pretty much just like play with these values to make it like it's like stuck or placed correctly on the scene right here. So you just play around with the settings and the rotation. You'll be able to do that. I did the same thing for her nail. And here's another thing that can be really tricky. Is like I have the E font, right? And sometimes it took me a minute to really realize this. You want to keyframe every single moment it moves, because even like it's a freaking mistake. Because like say if okay, the nail is right here, I can keyframe it and I can go all the way to the end. So if I go all the way to the end, like right here, and now so I can just move it, this will be a big empty gap right here, but it's keyframe right here and the keyframe right here. But if you play it back, it's gonna like not really like stick. So what I do, I make sure every single keyframe is connected. So say go forward, and each time I do that, the keyframe. You don't really have to do that, but I just do it just because we know you can just honestly leave these really blank, and only when it moves, just make sure you had a keyframe. So say it moves right here, make sure to keyframe it and move it slightly. It's pretty much you really just gotta eye it. Like sometimes like, it really depends on your scenes, because sometimes you have like a point where it's easy to really tell if it's centered or not. But most of the time you just eye it out and you'll be all right. So make sure you keyframe every single time, just to have it stick, just like that. And here again, make sure with the anchor point, I mean at the bottom, so we can do that little wiggle, 5 frames each time. And for this part, I just did like a bunch of duplicates, and I changed the rotation for each one in 3D space. So all it is like a bunch of duplicates, and like all these, then you'll see each one my rotation like a different way. And I just had the camera pan out on each one. Like he's doing his own thing. F, go down to the R. Pretty simple. Just make sure it don't mess up. In order to change like the color of the layers, go like click one, then go to here, and you'll be able to change like to what color you want. just to make things more like easier to follow. More lip syncs, talking. More text. That's pretty much like the gist of it, honestly. I will go to like more in depth on like pretty much like AMVs in general. Probably like the next video, if anything, like to really just get like the premise, because this is mostly just for like the effects, but I really want to dig into like scenes and pretty much like thought process on how to really like make an AMV. Because I guess the way I'm explaining, if you're like really new, I guess it doesn't really make much sense. So I'm just gonna try and really break everything down, generally speaking. Yeah, like with that, I did the same thing with like the text. With the ease, I like zoomed in, make sure everything's in 3D space. So bring that up. You know, I'll do is like I zoom each one in, change the color, move the camera around, did 5 frames with the AK. Same thing with the F and the R, just to give it some pop. Zoomed in, the ease, more lip sync with the text, and yeah, it's pretty much what I did for Super Freaky Girl. I really hope you guys enjoy it though. Hope you guys learned something. And so I will see you guys next time. Peace.